Welcome to another episode of our Unitrans podcast. Today, we want to have a conversation about sustainability, innovation, and the future of green transport in Africa. Sustainability in logistics has become an increasingly important consideration for long-term resilience and competitiveness. Today, we have Liesl De Wet, who heads up sustainability at Unitrans. Welcome, Liesl.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. Please tell us a little bit about what your role entails, and we look forward to discussing how energy efficiency, electrification, readiness, and green transport are shaping and evolving approaches to transport performance across Africa.
Fantastic. My name is Liesl De Wet, and I head up sustainability for Unitrans. Our role is basically to ensure that we embed our sustainability projects within the business, that we're aligned to all the corporate reporting requirements that we need, and that sustainability and energy efficiency actually becomes embedded in the way we do business, our operational excellence. And I'm happy to say that great feedback from the business. People are really wanting to make a difference, and it's exciting and a privilege for me to help guide that and encourage and inspire the activities moving forward in this space.
That's great to hear. Now, when it comes to sustainability, we know it's often spoken about in broad terms. So from a transport perspective, what does green solutions actually mean in practice?
So green solutions is really around sustainable transport, potentially, in terms of let's reduce our environmental impact. So how do we move goods? How do we complete our sustainable supply chain activities that we reduce our impact on the environment? So you often hear the adage of people, planet, profit. I think that's the old way of seeing sustainability. It's how do we still remain a profitable business and we balance the demands of the environmental and economic so that everybody wins and we leave the planet in a better position than what we have currently. And it is challenging, but it's also really exciting. And there's so many new technologies that are coming through the fore, which we'll touch on a bit later, but such as electrification, we've got alternative fuels for transportation, biodiesel, and new developments on the horizon, such as hydrogen fuel cells for trucks. And that's really exciting, but it's also the small incremental changes that make a difference, such as your driver training, what we're doing in the warehousing. So supply chain logistics, we operate in an environment of multiple interdependencies. And how do we get all of these to work in an operational excellence perspective that improves our footprint and still promotes productivity?
Now, you read my mind when it comes to electrification. Now, electric buses and alternative technologies are increasingly being explored. What conditions need to be in place for electrification to be viable in African transport solutions?
So I'm really excited to see how electrification in the transport industry is really taking shape. And what we've noticed is that definitely your medium, your last mile delivery, the smaller sort of microgrids in terms of scooters and that, which are quite a big element in Africa. And then also your public transport, your buses, is another very important prime area for first-time electrification of EV vehicles. And what we're noticing is grid infrastructure is critical. So in Africa, South Africa, we have range anxiety because we have these long distances to cover, and it's a very real thing. And we need to make sure also from a logistics perspective that we know where the charging stations are in order for us to deliver the products which we need to do for our clients. So grid infrastructure, critical. And then people always joke and say, what, you can't make a delivery because of load shedding potentially in South Africa. What do you do there? So, we have a great solar potential in South Africa, in Africa as well. So how do we then look at bringing in renewable electricity in to charge our vehicles, etc.? So it's really exciting to see the developments. The EV market is growing at a rapid rate. It's becoming a lot more easy to deploy in fleets, etc. But there are still a few challenges that we need to look at and be cognizant of. And a lot of those is commercialization, so mass uptake. It's also around charging infrastructure and legislation. I mean, you can't really run heavy-duty big vehicles as EV vehicles yet because it makes them extra long and a bit heavier according to legislation. So that needs to be looked at. But the ring fence around your public transport and your last mile delivery and even the microgrids, we're seeing a lot of exciting projects coming through there, and that's a great space to be in.
It's interesting that you speak about now how ready we are for these kind of things. What kind of readiness factors from a practical perspective would you say matters most before operators can adopt these green solutions?
So electricity supply is massive. Like, you want to be able to charge your vehicles.
Yeah.
Turnaround time of the charging of the vehicles is also really important, because you can't have a vehicle charging for 24, 48 hours or however long. Yeah. And now, thankfully, with the advent of technology, you're getting megawatt chargers coming into play now, which can charge vehicles a lot quicker than before. So that's a big advantage. But they do require electricity, right? And you need stable electricity. And ideally, you would like renewable electricity, not grid electricity, in order to reap the benefits of the savings. So a charging network, reliable electricity supply, and new technology vehicles do come at a cost premium. And so there needs to be innovation around financing models. How do you finance this transition? That is one of the tricky things. Supply chains are a cost competitive element for most clients. And, it takes a long-term investment. It's going to take a lot of, there's a lot of actually interesting finance being done in terms of leasing opportunities, battery swap outs, technologies that you can do. So there are things coming on the horizon, but currently they are quite pricey to launch mainstream.
How long do you think it will take till we get to the
Not
perfect
long.
scenario?
I reckon about 5 years max.
Okay.
We're ready. There's a lot of work currently being done, and I feel that it's heading in the right direction.
Well, that's good to hear. Yeah. That is very, very good to hear. But now, beyond electrification, where can energy efficiency and smarter fleet design deliver measurable environmental and operational improvements? What would you say?
I'm so glad you asked this question, because I'm a big proponent of saying it's the small impacts that make a massive difference collectively. Things like training your drivers. Mm-hmm. You can put a driver in the most fuel efficient vehicle, but if he's not trained correctly to drive it in that manner, you're not going to get the savings that you need. So our drivers are really important. Training our drivers is really, really important. Then another thing is simple things like matching the correct load with the correct configuration in terms of your vehicle. Very important. Load optimization, route optimization. We have a large amount of vehicle telematics and technology that we can deploy on our vehicles. Drive cam, we've got telematics that tell you exactly real time your fuel burned of your vehicle. So there's a lot of information, but what do you do with that information to make it real? You need to distill it into business data analytics that can be managed real time. And we've seen quite a lot of savings done just by managing real time per truck, per trip, what is happening. And that's very powerful. And it's a tool that anyone can really deploy and use. And you get savings out of that. We've seen savings out of that. So that's really exciting. And then on the warehousing side, you're also looking at renewable energy, solar, that kind of thing. It's really great to also get off the grid there. So there's a lot of opportunities here in terms of the small wins that lead to big solutions. And also bearing in mind, OEMs are manufacturing diesel vehicles that are a lot more efficient than the older models were. You start looking at Euro 4s, 5s, 6s. So there's a lot more energy efficient vehicles coming through in the market.
It's also quite interesting when you speak about the drivers and the operators. Now, how important would you say collaboration between operators, partners, and infrastructure providers in making green transport solutions workable and sustainable over time? How important would that be?
Oh, it's key, critical. We don't live in isolation, right? We're living in this massive ecosystem where we need to work together in order to achieve success in this space. And collaboration is a word that is used so often, it's become a bit of a buzzword at the time, but what does true collaboration really mean? It means working with your client to deploy these kind of technologies at scale. Only then are you actually going to see the savings and make a massive difference. And it's exciting because collaboration brings all different parties to the table. You're talking associations, you're talking government, you're talking fellow companies that you work with, your clients. I mean, a very strong client collaboration is key critical in terms of getting success in this space.
Now, looking at the evolution of how the transport system is evolving over time, as this evolution keeps on happening, what indicators would you say suggest sustainability efforts that are actually delivering real practical value for you?
So I've been in sustainable supply chain space since 2009. Wow. Which is quite a long time. So I have the advantage of seeing it actually evolve over a time period. And I'm really excited to see where we're going. It's exciting because EVs used to be not very well considered. They were just starting, and now they're becoming mainstream. You've got all the major manufacturers have very strong models to deploy. Then we're also looking at technologies such as hydrogen fuel cells, which is also coming down the track. And there's, testing vehicles. About 2 years ago, I was at a conference and I spoke to panelists and we were talking about hydrogen vehicles, and we were like, well, is this actually going to be a thing?
Yeah.
And the guy looked at me like, of course, we're testing vehicles, and I've actually seen it firsthand that they are testing vehicles. So that's really exciting on the technology side of things. We, just closer to Unitrans, we are deploying some electric buses in our fleet. We've actually delivered 10 electric buses to operations in Zanzibar, which we're really excited about. And the government's really proactive in supporting the initiative. And then we also have a warehousing collaboration in Durban, where we've got solar panels, we've got electric forklifts, and our team did a very detailed study in terms of diesel versus electric, how, what the solutions are, and it really came up tops with that. And they're running really efficient solutions there. So there's a lot of practical on-the-ground solutions that we are busy running. But of course, these need to be implemented at scale to make a difference, to achieve what we need to achieve for the planet moving forward.
And now, speaking about moving forward, what does the future of green transport look like for you?
I'm so excited about the future of green transport. I think opportunities, innovation, the transport industry is really used to dealing in environments that are pretty chaotic. You've got to deliver in sometimes challenging circumstances, and the resilience and the adaptability to be able to do that is really going to be a cornerstone of success in the future moving forward, because we are heading into a time of unpredicted climate. We are heading into that phase now where risk is going to be key and center stage, because this is what the climatic models have been predicting for a while, and we're actually seeing it. We've had these massive rain storms in Mpumalanga, Limpopo area, in Gauteng, which really has damaged infrastructure, roads, support networks, that kind of thing. And so how you navigate that is definitely going to be an interesting point, and it's going to determine how you manage the future moving forward. So that adaptability, the resilience, the sustainability. And that is why sustainability, it's not really just about hugging trees, that some people think it is. It's a real business driver. It's an imperative. And if you get it right, you're going to be successful moving forward. And then we can have this conversation in the next 20 years and say, looking back, how did we do,
100%. Now, looking at South Africa, do you think that we are ready at the end of the day? Because like you say, there's a few people who say, power this and power that. What do you think?
Look, Africa has got huge solar potential, massive solar potential. And we've also got a lot of potential in the hydrogen space as well. I think we're very well placed. We've got great legislation, actually. We have the Presidential Climate Change Commission, where people are looking at models all the time in terms of advising businesses, how do we transition? So there still is a lot of work that needs to be done, but I'm excited. I think that there is a lot of opportunity and innovation in this space. And we are well placed to capitalize on it and to move forward with it to make a real change. So I'm excited. I see a lot more EVs coming through, a lot more microgrids coming through, all these bikes that are delivering. They're going to be electric, potentially hydrogen in the future for sure. Charging stations, grid infrastructure, which is different to just a garage on the side of the road. We're going to see them evolve into little ecosystems where there'll be a lot of opportunities there. So I think we're well placed. We do need to work together though. There's a lot of stakeholders here that need to work together with the same goal in mind in order for it to be enacted and implemented.
On working together, what would your final thoughts be when it comes to green transport and how things can work out in a perfect rollout way?
In a perfect rollout way. I was very spoiled a few years ago. I actually got to do a research hydrogen tour in Europe, in Germany. And they really are very committed to sustainability. You walk around there, you see cars being charged on the side of the road. They have a charging station that has a charging infrastructure, biodiesel, hydrogen, biogas, all the opportunities available to you. So I think we have great minds in South Africa. We have great collaboration opportunities with our clients, with our staff, with our employees, with our drivers. And it's to take the passion, right, of where we need to be and what we need to do, the purpose behind what we need to achieve, and direct it into something that's real, that's tangible, and makes a solid difference at the end of the day. And that we can do that. We really can do that.
I love it. I love hearing the passion. Each time I interview more and more members who work at Unitrans, the one thing that you guys exude is passion. And I must really say that we appreciate it because we see that you guys really love what you do. And I can see that you definitely love what you do.
Thank you so much. I really do, yes. And it's great to work in an organization that is really supportive of this very important agenda item.
Well, that's great to hear. Very great to hear. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Through this episode, we've learned that sustainability and operational performance are often interconnected. Thank you so much, Liesl, for sharing your practical insights on how green innovation is being approached realistically and responsibly. You've helped us see that progress comes from collaboration, readiness, and thoughtful innovation.